Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. So today we are discussing about new Genshin Impact game details. Let's get into it. It looks like Genshin might finally be getting new endgame content, at least according to a recent leak. If you've been waiting for something fresh to do with your full roster, this could be exactly what you've been hoping for or just another false alarm. In this video, I'll walk you through everything we know about this potential mode, explain where the leak came from, how it might actually work in-game, and why you should probably stay a bit cautious for now. Let's break it down. The leak mentions something called New Abyss. Here's the idea: 6 floors, 3 teams, no shared characters, and no starting energy. All enemies are world bosses. The leak also says 6 floors instead of just 3 bosses. That could mean each team clears 2 floors. Maybe each one has elite mobs or maybe mini-bosses instead of standard abyss waves. Now, if you've ever played Zenless Zone Zero, this might sound familiar. That game has a mode called Deadly Assault, a high-difficulty challenge that works in a really specific way. And it looks like this Genshin mode might be heavily inspired by that. In ZZZ, you build 3 completely separate teams, and each one takes on its own boss fight. The twist? Characters are locked to the team they were used in, but their weapons and artifacts, called W engines and drive discs in ZZZ, can be reassigned freely between fights. Since you don't fight all bosses in a row, you can reallocate gear in between. After one battle, you go back to the menu, change loadouts, and go again. Now, imagine that system in Genshin. You build 3 full teams, no overlap allowed. If you're using Farina on Team 1, you can't have her on Team 2 or 3. But her artifacts and weapons? You can give those to someone like Kokomi or even Barbara in the next fight. That would finally solve one of the biggest pain points in endgame Genshin: players not having enough good gear for every unit. Sharing gear but not characters would reward smart planning instead of just raw stats. The goal isn't to win in the traditional sense, it's to deal as much damage as you can in 3 minutes. That total damage is what determines your rewards. The other big mystery is the goal. Will it be like ZZZ, where you try to deal the most damage in a set time, or will it be more like current spiralabyss, where you have to actually kill all enemies as quickly as possible? Genshin doesn't currently have bosses with infinite HP, so if it's a damage-based mode, that would be a first. But if Hoyoverse really is trying to bring something fresh to the endgame, that could be exactly where they're headed. And here's the interesting part: a while ago, Hoyoverse did mention that they were looking into new endgame content and even posted job listings for new game mode development. So while this exact leak may not be fully trustworthy, the idea of a new challenge mode isn't totally out of the blue. It lines up with what the devs said they wanted to do. The fact that they've already tried it in Zenless Zone Zero makes it feel even more plausible. They've got a working template and they've seen how players respond to it. If this ends up being real, it could be a huge shift for Genshin's long-term content. It would give players a reason to invest in more characters, not just the meta favorites. You'd need to think about synergy across multiple teams, plan your rotations carefully, and maybe even adapt your strategy depending on which floor your team is facing. For longtime players who've been asking for more challenging and varied content outside of spiralabyss, this would be a welcome addition. But again, this isn't confirmed. The leak didn't come with images or in-depth gameplay footage. No numbers, no names, no exact rewards or timeline, just a rough concept that sounds believable enough to get people talking. Would you want a mode like this in Genshin? Or do you prefer the current Abyss-style gameplay? Let me know your comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.